This is the Matt Report Podcast, a podcast for WordPress professionals, agencies, freelancers, consultants, users, community members. If you're interested in learning about the business side of WordPress, this is the place to be. If you're interested to have discussions, deep-rooted conversations about the community, where WordPress is going, and the business behind it all, it's mattreport.com, mattreport.com/subscribe. It's the number one way to stay connected. You're listening to Season 5. This episode of the Matt Report is brought to you by Gravity Forms. Gravity Forms was the first commercial plugin I ever purchased for my agency, and I've been a loyal customer ever since. When I see the annual renewal charge come through for Gravity Forms, I don't cringe or second guess keeping it in our toolkit. I'm a proud customer. Gravity Forms is not only a great example of a successful WordPress product, but a product that helps me become successful at what I do. See, it's more than just forms. It's a survey tool. It's an online payment transaction. It's the cornerstone to automated marketing through their Zapier add-on, and the list goes on. If you're looking for a contact form that's more than a contact form, check out Gravity Forms at gravityforms.com. That's gravityforms.com. Have you been thinking about starting a SaaS business? Sam and Corey sit down with James Laws of WPNinjas.com, famously from ninjaforms.com. But it's not the only product they have up their sleeve. They sit down to discuss what it's like to even consider a SaaS business for the traditional WordPress plugin business, how to go from A to B, that kind of thing, how to make that leap when you are spending just gobs amounts of time, is the best professional way I can put it, supporting, selling, iterating, developing a WordPress plugin. It's a whole different mindset. James takes us down that path today. Don't forget, this is halfway through Season 5 of the Matt Report. This is where my new co-hosts, Corey and Sam, talk to people who are either thinking about starting a SaaS business, pivoting to a SaaS business, or already in the process of running a SaaS business, all for you, the Matt Report listener. I do appreciate your patronage by listening to the show. I'd also appreciate a 5-star review if you enjoy episodes like this. If you enjoy what's going on at the Matt Report, head on over to iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave us a 5-star review. That'd be amazing. Every single podcaster in the world says that they appreciate it, and we sure do. Helps us get found, helps us get to that next level. If you're interested in starting your own podcast and co-hosting a show like you hear Sam and Corey today, reach out to me. It's mattreport.com/contact. Let's get into the show. This episode of the Matt Report is brought to you by Pagely. Pagely, where we help big brands scale WordPress. It's enterprise WordPress hosting in the Amazon cloud. If you're building big, powerful WordPress websites for your clients, you need big, powerful hosting, and Pagely delivers. I use Pagely for my websites and e-commerce shops, so I trust their service, and I have no issues recommending them to you. Look, I only bring on sponsors that I trust. And who else trusts Pagely? Verizon, eBay, Disney, Twitter, and more. You can see that right on the homepage of their website. Pagely is the OG of WordPress managed hosting, and they're innovating the market every single day. If your clients trust you to write scalable code, then trust Pagely to host it for you. Check out pagely.com.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. I'm Corey and I'm here with my co-host Sam. We are interviewing James Laws today from the illustrious Ninja Forms, and we're going to be picking his brain about potential moves for Ninja Forms in the future involving SaaS, what he's thinking, what he's not thinking, what he might be thinking. So James, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Great. So give us the 60-second background of Ninja Forms.
Ninja Forms was built out of ignorance. So I no market research, had a client who needed basically a form builder. I didn't know the WordPress space that well, so me and my partner built it, decided it might be something worthy for other people to try, looked around and found out there were a whole bunch of other solutions in the space, so we launched it anyway, and that is the short story of like the journey.
Perfect.
Cool. So what year was that?
That was in June of 2011.
Okay, and then when you launched it, did you launch it as a premium plugin first and then settle on the add-in model later, or?
We did. We ran a year and a half. So we went for 6 months, we did it as premium only. I don't know if you'd call it premium, though. It's $15, all inclusive, unlimited sites, unlimited support, lifetime. So it was a terrible business model that we launched under, out of complete and total ignorance. Like I said, it was launched out of ignorance. It's really a miracle we're still here today.
Hey, you got to start somewhere.
That's right. Exactly. But to answer your question, we were premium only for that first 6 months. And then in January, or actually probably December of 2011, we launched a light version with a pro upgrade. And we ran that for pretty much all of 2012 until we transitioned to the add-on model in January of 2013.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about how you decided to make that transition, and then like any early signs that you could see that it was working.
Yeah. So the reason we started is, so we decided to go to a light with a pro upgrade in 2012 solely for the purpose of we weren't getting enough exposure. We thought maybe being on .org would give us a little bit more visibility. So we thought we'd launch a light version. And so we tried that for a year, and our sales were pretty much flat through that whole process. I think our peak month was $1,200 through that entire year. So I was still working a full-time job. My partner was actually getting his working on his PhD in ancient Roman history overseas. And so we were just kind of trying to make it work. And so we decided it wasn't working the way we were doing it throughout 2012. And I was buying a new e-commerce solution to sell it through. And of course, Pippin had just not recently released Easy Digital Downloads. And so I started looking at them and picking out the add-ons that I would need to run my commerce solution. And it was kind of like a light bulb moment. I was like, most of the users that we have don't use everything that we sell. They only use a piece of functionality. And so I went to my partner and said, what if we took the pro version and just split it up into lots of little add-ons and launch it just in the same exact model as Easy Digital Downloads? And he had already been working on making it more extensible in that way. And so it was the natural next step. So it was really just a let's experiment, because what we're doing isn't working and we're not growing. The way we knew we had hit on something was really the first month in January. We did another $1,200 in sales, which was nothing high. It was like our high month the last year, so nothing impressive. But then we more than doubled in February. We doubled again in March. We doubled again in April, and it just kept climbing. And so really what we did is at that point in 2012, we were selling our pro version for $29. We had doubled our price from previous. And then we basically split it up into about 6 or 7 add-ons and started charging about $39 a piece for each of those features. So we basically increased our price by 7 times if you were going to buy them all. And our sales started doubling month over month over month.
And was most of the new customer acquisition through the WordPress.org repo, or did your marketing strategy change around that at all?
We did zero marketing other than having it in the repo and just talking about it through people that we knew. So we were still very green at that point and didn't have a marketing campaign. We just changed the model. That was literally the only thing we changed, and we started to see this impact. Where things really started to take off even more, though, was back in the end of April of 2013. We had just kind of sent out a tweet saying, "Hey, Ninja Forms is really extensible. Would anybody like to build an add-on and sell it on our site?" And just kind of threw it out there. And Pippin reached out and said, "Yeah, I'd love to build MailChimp. Let's do that." And I said, "Great." So he got on like a 45-minute call with my business partner, walked through the code base, really liked it, and I want to say less than an hour later, he had a MailChimp add-on built and ready to go. We launched it the next day, and all of a sudden other developers started reaching out because Pippin had written a review about it. And so that kind of exposed us to a market that we were not yet fully engaged in.
Cool. So how was that arrangement? Like, what was your arrangement with Pippin? Did he get 50% or...
You heard him.
Yeah,
he got mentioned on the podcasts. He got tweeted about.
Yeah, right. We gave him whatever he wanted just to have his
probably the best move you could make in this ecosystem.
And you know what, though, that speaks to how the kind of the stand-up guy that Pippin is. That wasn't the arrangement at all. And matter of fact, he helped us set up our entire ecosystem on how to sell add-ons with other developers. He said, we use a Trello board to manage this. So he basically duplicated Easy Digital Download's Trello board, gave it to us, and said, here's how I would set it up. And they basically configured the whole thing for us, told us how he handled splits, and that's a split we handle to this day. So he takes 70%. We take 30% for handling first touch support and processing the fee and holding it on our site. But every developer who comes with us, as long as they're supporting their product, makes a lion's share of that. And that's just the way we've gone with every developer since.
Cool.
Nice. And then just to sort of complete the picture, I think last year you guys launched the amazing version 3, which I know was a long uphill battle for you. Well worth it in my experience.
Well, thank you.
But but obviously a big business decision. Because presumably the business was bopping along okay.
Right.
What made you or gave you the confidence to double down like that?
I think a part of it was I actually talked about this on a previous podcast of ours, where we were just talking a little bit about the struggle of being in a saturated market. One of the struggles of being in a saturated market is a false standard gets created of how things should be done. And you get locked into that as a product developer, as a business as well. You see how for instance, as a form builder, you see how all the other form builders basically build forms. And you tend to, whether consciously or unconsciously, build conventions that work in a similar fashion. And we decided we needed to rattle our cage a little bit, and we needed to think outside the box. And so we actually hired a user experience company to kind of sit down and work through the process. Like if we were forget WordPress, if WordPress didn't exist and we were building a form builder from scratch, from a user experience perspective, how would we go about it? And we came up with what is Ninja Forms 3.0. And it was really just a process of we want to do things differently. We don't want to get caught up in the way it was always been done. If there's a better way we can come up with to do it. So it forced us really to think about what is the better way. Nice,
which is a perfect segue into the topic that we're here today to talk about, which is SaaS, which is kind of a, it's a bit of a buzzword, but it's on a lot of people's minds and tongues lately in the WordPress world, looking at expanding beyond the WordPress ecosystem, and or how to stand out as a product. So let's dive into that a bit. I picked on you for this interview because I've heard you mention a few times in a few places that you guys are starting to think about, which is why I thought it would be really neat to kind of see what's going on in your head right now. So I guess let's start there. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, like you said, SaaS is this topic that's coming up a lot more often, and it's only going to get bigger. Like people are only going to be talking about it more. You're going to see people, I think, like Chris Lemma and some of these hosting companies, especially these higher end managed WordPress hostings, are going to be looking to partner with people who are going into the SaaS space because it's a thing they know. They know how to scale these servers. They know how to make this thing work. I think you're going to hear a lot more talk about it, and I think the reason you don't hear as much talk about it in our space is a lot of us are just ignorant about the process of how it works, like how to get started, how to build it. And I'm one of those people. So I'm trying to figure it out and learn as I go and learn from as many people as I can. What it really comes down to, I think in a lot of ways, is we're thinking about our future as a company, as a product, other things that we want to build, other things that we want to work into. And what we know is, while I love WordPress and I'm not going anywhere, and Ninja Forms will always be a WordPress plugin, we have no plans of ever changing that. We always like to boast this, I think it's 27% right now. WordPress, right, manages 27% of all websites are built on WordPress. Well, that's wonderful. But as a business owner, all I can think about is, well, that means there's 73% of people I can't get any money from.
Right.
Like, these are people I can't sell to. And granted, I could probably stick with that 27% and work really hard and make a really good living and support a really good team just focusing on that. But at some point, if you want to scale, you have to kind of start thinking about who are you leaving behind that you could be servicing, and it depends on the mission of your company. And our mission as our company is to help others be successful. It's not just to help WordPress websites be successful. It's to help people be successful in any business. And so I don't really care to be completely honest, I don't care if you're on Squarespace or Wix or Weebly or, I just have in general, I have a heart to see people succeed. I want to help them do that. And they use the platform they want to use. I prefer WordPress. I would recommend WordPress every single time. It's what I'm comfortable in. That's probably why I would recommend it. But there's no reason why we couldn't build a solution or a tool that could service everybody. And so that was one of the reasons to start thinking about SaaS. But another reason is just simply this: if you've ever supported a plugin, if you've ever released a plugin, a product, especially at a larger scale, you know that you are dealing with hundreds of thousands of permutations of configurations between servers and PHP versions and MySQL versions and the number of plugins that they're running, which plugins, and are they keeping those things up to date, and themes and custom code that they're just copy and pasting in their functions folder for no apparent reason because they think they need it, right? You're dealing with all of these factors that you have absolutely zero control over. But in a SaaS, you control the environment in which they are using your product, at least the core part, which is the interfacing with your product. And that's huge. That's such a huge benefit. It's only one thing, but it's a big piece of it. I mean, it's super important. So those are two of the reasons I would say right off the top that why we started exploring the idea of SaaS.
Yeah, and that second reason, we've been hearing that a lot, just being able to control your environment. But if you're going to be selling this to WordPress folks, are you concerned that it's going to be hard to bring the people who are using the plugin version over to a SaaS platform and have them manage their forms completely separate from WordPress in a completely separate SaaS app, rather than where they're used to managing their Ninja forms, which is inside WordPress?
Yeah, I think I look at it as a two-prong approach. And that is, for the people who want to manage it within their WordPress hosting, they can, because the plugin will still exist and it will still be up to date. In fact, the way we're building Ninja Forms, other than some core components that are needed to be shifted and altered, it will be essentially the same code base running both the SaaS and the plugin itself. So you'll be able to do both. And so I almost see Ninja Forms and I don't know how we're going to market this. I'll be completely honest. This is how this comes to fruition. I'm not exactly sure. But on some level, I see it as a lot from the separation between a WordPress.com and a WordPress.org, where WordPress.org, you can install the software, run it yourself, and you can do that if you want to. But if you don't want to deal with that headache, or you are working on something where you cannot install WordPress plugins, well, we have for lack of a better term, a .com version that's fully hosted that you can still use. And so now we can open up that market and give people, and I think what we'll find is, in many ways, one will be a gateway to the other at times. Where they transition, they say, oh, I don't want to manage this. But then as their business grows and they want more control, they may say, you know what, I do want to manage it. I want to put it all on my site.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So, thinking, again, pie in the sky here. The fun part of not having decided anything yet is we can talk about all of it, right? I guess what we've supposed here is that you are in fact thinking about a SaaSified version of Ninja Forms. Is that right? And or what other ideas have you guys talked about, or has occurred to you in the shower or whatever?
I think if you talk to anybody, especially anybody who has a larger user base, I think they're thinking about SaaS in some way. Mm-hmm. They may be at different stages of what that looks like, but I think they're all kind of thinking through what that might look like for their particular product. And every product is going to be different. So for us, it might actually be a stepped approach, where we say maybe what we offer is an email, kind of almost like a MailChimp had with Mandrill, a transactional email service, because one of our biggest issues, which almost every form builder has, is email is problematic, right? And so how do you deal with email? Well, maybe the first step in a SaaS space is a transactional email service, and we just fix that problem first. And then we can step into a full-on builder on our site where all the data is processed and stored and housed, and and something like that. But there are little problems that we can solve in a SaaS environment very easily. And I would actually encourage any plugin developer business to kind of think through that process. Is there a problem that I can solve that's a part of that? Is there a SaaS component to my product, even though my product itself may not be fully SaaS? I mean, in all honesty, look at Jetpack, and that is a big portion of many of their components. They're SaaS components, even though the whole product may not be SaaS itself.
Right.
I mean, they may require you to log into your WordPress.com to use them, but a lot of those features are not necessarily SaaS components, and some are.
Hey, if you've got the power, you may as well abuse it.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to stop it, right? At this point, like it works, it's useful, and if you want that one feature that it has that you don't like anywhere else, you're just going to do it. I mean, I use Jetpack. I'm not going to complain about it.
No, me neither.
So I'm certainly not hating on it, but there are ways of looking at SaaS differently than just full on SaaS, right? Like my entire product is going to be a SaaS product. There are components that could be SaaS related, and go from there.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I know you said that you're not sure how you'd market a move to SaaS, but I'm wondering
if you've seen.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you've at least seen some examples that you think you can draw some influence from.
I mean, obviously you have some people who have kind of transitioned, and look at Syed and Awesome Motive with what is their plugin? Why can I not think of it? Optin Monster. I can't believe I couldn't remember it. Yeah, Optin Monster. Like, they started as a plugin, then they transitioned over to a SaaS, and they have a plugin that lets you connect to your WordPress site. But they're not just serving WordPress anymore; they service anyone. So you have some plugins that have kind of made the transition. So their transition was a little different. They got pretty much their plugin is really just a connector to their service, but they have a separate service that doesn't necessarily require the plugin to function. It just makes it easier on some levels. For our approach is to kind of maintain both. We've kind of jokingly called the idea of a SaaS Ninja Forms Anywhere is kind of our code name for it, if you will. Just thinking about if you could use Ninja Forms absolutely on any site in any kind of environment. Our idea, honestly, is I don't know that I want the confusion. It's really a struggle. So if in complete transparency, it's a struggle. I love our brand. We spent a lot of money kind of formulating our brand and building it up. People recognize it. People like it. People really enjoy what we offer. And so we want to stick with that. But on one level, I almost want to the SaaS would almost be a different name altogether. Like, I would just rebrand it as a totally different piece. And it may be brought to you by the people who made Ninja Forms, but it might be a completely different. I think really in general, it will be a different business altogether. We will probably separate that out into another company, and just have a parent company over, both of those things.
Nice. And what do you have any other concerns, I guess, aside from sort of brand confusion or product confusion?
I mean, the biggest concern is we don't know what we're doing right now, right? I mean, we've had a lot of conversations with some really smart people who have helped us kind of think through the direction. But, when you're talking about SaaS, you're talking about, DevOps and server scalability that we don't have any experience necessarily in that area. And so we know we're going to probably, at least in the beginning, need to find a hosting partner, somebody who already is doing it. So Pagely, if I remember correctly, right, they're doing it for Optin Monster. So they know the space, right? They're there. I think Liquid Web is going to become a really good contender in this space. I think they're already a contender, but I think they're going to make themselves known as a contender in this space for people who are looking for that. And to be honest, I think anyone can do it, but there's a difference in an example. Like when I've talked to, say, like Jason Cohen of WP Engine, and I talked to him a little bit about SaaS and hostings and partnership. He was never as forthright as to say, W Engine could do that. WP Engine could totally do that. They could. They are fully capable of doing it. I just don't know that they want to, right? Where if you talk to Strebel, he'll be like, oh, yeah, let's talk about this. Let's sit down and have a meeting. Let's do it. And I think the same thing over at Liquid Web. If you connect with AJ Morris, and I'm sure he would sit down and have a conversation. What does that look like? Let's talk about it. So different hosting has different interests in that kind of space. So that's something to consider. But that's really, I think, the technical side, which it sounds strange for a technical company. The technical side, and I'm not the most technical person. I can develop enough to get my product in trouble. And I build things for internal use because nobody has to ever see the code necessarily. But the technical side is the stuff that I'm the most concerned about. But I also know I have a super capable team, and my CTO is probably one of the smartest people I know when it comes to this stuff. And I know he'll, when he sits down and actually maps out all the details, I know we'll get it all together. So I'm not concerned about that. But it's just in the back of my head, there's always this nagging of, man, that sounds really complicated. Like, that's going to be tough. So the branding is really the hard part, because here's the thing. We've got really good traction with Ninja Forms as a plugin. Actually, in the last couple of days, we just crossed over 800,000 active installs.
Wow.
So, we're doing really well in that space, but you're talking about a much bigger ocean. And so the amount of dollars it's going to take to get visibility to compete against really the Wufoo, the Form Stack, and all these people that are already in this space doing it, it's going to be challenging. And here's the thing: places like Form Stack are already gunning at us. Like, they already have a comparison of Form Stack versus Ninja Forms. Like, they're already, I guess, yeah. But we've not actually gone the other route yet. So that's it's a big C to deal with.
It's interesting. Oops, sorry. Go ahead, Sam.
So since there are other form builders that service that market, and you already have such a big presence in WordPress, is it even worth it to venture outside of WordPress yet, or do you see merit in just staying inside of WordPress until you are the form builder and no one even thinks about gravity forms anymore, and then you can venture outside?
The answer. So the key point to what you said is yet. Is it necessary yet? And that I don't know that you can really answer 100%. I'm not somebody who likes to sit on my hands, and I know how long some of the times it takes to turn a ship like this around, or to even just pivot and change direction. It's also a combination of splitting too soon and taking your focus off of something that you're doing well. But here's the thing: there are other people servicing that space. But when we launched out, Gravity Forms was already here. The Formidable was already there. There were other form plugins already in the space. In fact, if I remember correctly, there was over 50 different form plugins already in existence in the WordPress space when we launched Ninja Forms. And we were told by people, don't bother. There's everybody who's going to buy a form builder is already using plugin X. That's pretty much what we were told. And I'm a stubborn SOB, so I just I don't take that. That's not good enough for me. So we kept trying and trucking along. And what we found is a saturated market is a great place to launch. It's great because a saturated market tells you that there is a market. There are people spending money on this solution. So all you have to do is find the right scratch to itch, or itch to scratch. Find the right itch to scratch. If you can find out what differentiates you, what sets you apart from those other services, you can do really well.
So that's an interesting question. Do you have any idea, what it might take? What is that red flag, that line in the sand that you wake up one day and you go, today is the day, we're gonna do something different?
Yeah. When the code is ready. No.
When Kevin says the code is ready. Right?
when Kevin says we can do it, we'll do it. No. We're always, as a business, we're always evaluating. On a monthly basis, we're evaluating where we were a month ago, a quarter ago, a year ago, where we are today, what's our forecast for the next few months, year, 5 years. And we're always kind of looking at that and watching the trends of our own company and the trends of our space. And a lot of times that can start to help inform when it's the right time to move. So, we're watching like how many people are searching for WordPress forms, WordPress forms specifically, and how those search terms are trending, and what solutions are growing and what solutions aren't growing. We're trying to learn. We're not as naive to think is that we're the perfect solution for everyone, but we know we can learn from our competitors. In fact, we're friends with most of our competitors in the space, and so we have a lot of fun with them, and they joke with us, and we've sent them information to help secure stuff that when we found something vulnerable in our plugin. Nice. And then we tested and every form plugin was vulnerable. So we reached out to every form builder to let them know privately so that they could patch that. So there's at least a good professional courtesy throughout the space. And a lot of times we're friends with those other people. And so we enjoy that. But yeah, I don't know that there is this like one moment. You just kind of have to watch and sense the heartbeat of your own company and the heartbeat of your market, and kind of determine, is my heartbeat in this market's heartbeat getting dangerously low, and do we need to kickstart it, supercharge it, something to move on. And so those are the types of things you kind of have to always keep watching. There's no easy answer because every space is different.
Sure.
Every business is different.
Or your heart is pounding so fast that you've just got to jump on that new thing.
Yeah, that's a thing too. Like, what excites you as a business? It's not always about chasing just the money. It's chasing the interest. It's what are you passionate about? And so, that may be just the thing, right? We're doing great, but man, I'm just really passionate about moving into this new space. And so you just make the leap.
Sure. So we're coming up on the half-hour mark here. So I guess what's fun now is to talk about the future, right? What is coming, or maybe on the horizon. Have you started doing research? I mean, you talk about looking at where you're at or where you've been. Are there any thoughts on where you're going? Have you started dipping a toe into expanding into SaaS? Have you built that internal code that only your guys are looking at, but in 9 months from now, we're going to be clicking on?
Yeah. So at this point, we don't have any of the private code, if you will, that's behind the veil. But every piece of code we write nowadays is written with that idea in mind. Could we pull this out of WordPress and put it somewhere else, and it would still function? So everything that we're writing, everything that we're doing is with that end goal in mind. Whether that turns into a full-on SaaS or not may remain to be seen, but it absolutely is the direction that our product team is working as we think through what features we add, what features we don't add. Is this something that we can maintain in a SaaS environment or not? Like we're thinking about through that process with everything that we're writing. On the other side is, yes, we've been making calls. We've made calls with different transactional email providers to see if we could start with instead of even building our own, building a wrapper on someone else's service as a start, just to kind of get our feet wet with the process. So we've made some connections there and have had some conversations. I've talked with various hosting, mostly the people I've already mentioned. I've spoken to them. What would it look like to partner up? Because the truth is, in the front end, we probably can't afford a DevOps right out the gate before we even have the SaaS running. Sure. So is there a host that has DevOps available that's willing to work with us and on some sort of a basis to kind of figure out what that looks like? So we've been having those conversations, as well as us, my CTO has been doing his own research on what's needed for scalability on our end from a code standpoint to make sure that this runs, and how do we make sure data is transferred properly, and all of our processing, the things that Ninja Forms is known for doing really, really well. how do we make sure that stuff is transferable in a SaaS environment, and how is the code built to handle that kind of stuff. So we're doing all of that, but we're also doing all of that in tandem of just making sure that Ninja Forms itself is getting further development, feature rich, feature stable, feature parity from 2.9 as we've made that transition. We're kind of have our toes dipped in several ponds all at once, trying to keep the ship moving ahead.
Nice. Well, and I like what you said. One of my favorite business books is the E-Myth Revisited, and one of the big principles he talks about is even if you never intend to sell or franchise your business, build it as though you were going to, so that one, you do have those options, but two, there's a priority on documentation and process and all that kind of stuff. And so a neat analogy there is, if you build your tech, build your code, build your plugin in a way that you're always thinking about those other options, no matter what, you're going to end up with cleaner code and more options. But then down the road, it will be easier to extend it, to SaaSify it or whatever. That's a neat analogy.
Yeah, I mean, definitely build your product so it doesn't matter which way you want to pivot, you can pivot, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter if you want to stay in the space but just be better. You can do that. Like, that's okay. And if you want to move out of the space or not even just out of the space, but further reach, you can do that as well. So absolutely.
Great. Well, what a good thought to end on. James, we really appreciate your time today and insights. If people want to learn more about you or get in touch, what's the best way?
Best way to get in touch with me is on Twitter at James Laws.
Great, thanks. And everybody should check out Ninja Forms and keep their eye out for not Ninja Forms 2.0, no, the SaaS version.
Yeah, whatever that may be called.
Whatever
someday.
it may look like, but we're excited to watch the journey. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That was another episode of The Matt Report. I hope you learned something. I hope you got something out of it. It means a lot when somebody actually learns something from the conversations that I have here, either personal gains or business gains, whatever it might be, just learning your way in the crazy world of WordPress. That's why I do it. I couldn't do it without my audience. I couldn't do it without my sponsors as well. So please go ahead and thank the sponsors. Use the services that I've mentioned in these episodes. I really vet them and make sure that they're only putting out good products with great support, and they really care about the WordPress community. That's why I've chosen them. So it means a lot if you go ahead on Twitter and tell them that you heard them on the Matt Report podcast. As always, mattreport.com/subscribe to join the mailing list. It's the #1 way to stay connected. I send private videos there to my newsletter. It's really becoming much more than just a boring old newsletter, so I hope I can see you over there. And the best thing that you can do for the show is head on over to iTunes, search for WordPress Podcast, leave me a 5-star review if you enjoy the episode. I'd really appreciate it. We'll see you in the next episode.